Hi, I'm Frank Martin. In the previous video, I explained how to set up your Dolby Atmos with your DAW. The one that I'm using is Logic Pro, how to get everything prepared, how to get them to communicate together, how to get the right settings. So in this one, I'm going to explain how do you do the mixing, the mastering, how do you do a stereo version of your file, and how do you get it distributed. But first, if you haven't seen it yet, the previous video, please check it up. It should be somewhere here. So here we go, let's start. Thank you for following this video. If you like them, then please don't forget to subscribe, click like. I do a lot of video on technique, and I do also music videos. So welcome. So before I start to launch Logic Pro and start to show you some screen, I want to talk about mixing and how is it slightly different with when you prepare something for Dolby Atmos. The first part that I found out that was really helpful to me was to listen a lot of music done already in Dolby Atmos. I found out that listening on headset is not necessarily the best experience because the spatialization, the binaural stuff is working more or less. You don't have really this sense of distance and location also. So I found it best for me to set it up on my system with a 5.1 system. So if you have got the full 7.1.4, it's fine, but at least get 5.1 system. Here I've got 4 speakers, and then the center speaker I emulate it. But get a little bit, front and back. That's already something that will help you on the location or localization. Now for mixing, I was in a forum on the Clubhouse and I asked this question to BT, and I think he made a lot of sense. You need to mix with intent. So your panning needs to be done with intent. Don't move the sound around because you can move the sound around. Just try to figure it out. Okay, I've got the sound, I've got a track. What do I want to do? What does it make sense? And then try it. And if it doesn't work, then try something else. But you need to mix with intent. You need to do the panning with intent. One difference that is happening also is that, in stereo, you use a lot of the equalizer to suppress certain part of the instrument. So one instrument doesn't overlap on another instrument. Some instrument have got the same frequency range of overlapping frequency range. So when they are played together, sometimes you say, okay, I'm going to shuffle a little bit of this frequency range on the EQ so that we can hear more this other instrument in the back. Now, when you've got localization, then you're not necessarily obliged to do that, because if you have got one instrument coming on one speaker and another instrument coming on another speaker, well, they are not mixing together, they are not coming from the same sound source, so you don't necessarily need to do this EQ. That's true also on stereo when you've got the left and right, but often instruments are more placed, somewhere in the middle, left or right, than fully on the left and fully on the right. So that's something that is brought in Dolby Atmos because you separate the instrument from their location. So that's really important. So that's one consideration that you need to have. You don't necessarily need to do that. So if you're recovering a file from somewhere else where I've gone this EQ, then you may want to ask the person, no, remove this EQ, I just want the sound source. It's possible, sometimes it's not, but this is what you want to do. You don't want to have all the processing or effects that are here to mask a sound compared to the others. So that's one important part. The other part that I found is, okay, where do you place your instrument? So you can listen to some things like in stereo, there's a standard. Usually, you've got your drum on the center, you've got a guitar on the left, you've got the bass on the right, you've got the keyboard a little bit on the side, and the voice right in the middle. So there's a couple of standards. They're not really standard, but the industry has evolved in such a way that you place it, and you tend to place this instrument a little bit like the band is on stage. You want to give through the stereo roughly a little bit the same feeling that if the band is on the stage. So that's what's happening. So in Dolby Atmos, because you've got all the environment around you, how do you do that? So I've listened to some of them. There's also some very old quadraphonic record, like one that I love, which is Dark Side of the Moon. That was recorded in quadraphonic, that was made for quadraphonic also, which is really important. And you can hear that Yes, they place the drummer in the front, and there is some of the keyboard which are at the back, the special effects, like the coins are moving around, or they are bumping around. One time they're here, another time they're there. So that gives you a sense. Sometimes I've listened to normal band rocks, and then you've got a little bit that the sense that you are inside the band. You are in the middle of the band. Sometimes should you be just a little bit in front of the band? So mostly it's coming from the front. You've got to sing a little bit on the side. That's another point of view. There's no really any standard right now. So people are trying to figure it out, trying to see how it goes. If you got electronic music, then that's a little bit different because electronic music, it's not necessarily with players. It's produced music. It's coming all over you, so you can take more liberty, more freedom of what you want to do with all this music, where you want to get it. I've seen also by listening to some of the composition, it tends to be like the main sound is coming from the front, and in the back you've got mostly all the effects. So if you have got in your mixing, you have got your main tracks, and then you've got sometimes you send it to the subs, to the bus, and this bus have got the effects, and then you bring it back, so you've got the dry and then the wet. So the wet part is a little bit sent on the back, as a kind of surround, as a kind of ambient. I don't really like it that way because you're not taking full usage of your space, but that's what some people do. In electronic music, what I do is I like to make things move a bit around. The thing is that I compose on my modular synthesizer in quadraphonic, and quadraphonic also bring something a little bit different. Dolby Atmos is coming from 5.1 or theater. So in theater, you've got a screen in front of you, so you've got a sense of direction. This is where you should look at. In music, there's no screen, but still there's this sense of direction that's still there. You need to look in the front. When I do quadraphonic, I like to make it that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you look. It doesn't matter where you are in the room. It doesn't matter which side you're looking. The music is not necessarily, doesn't have a sense of direction. It's coming from different place, but you should enjoy it the same way wherever you are, wherever you're looking at. And that's what I like with quadraphonic. So also in Dolby Atmos, think about it. Do you want this sense of direction? Do you want to look at the band? And if you're in electronic music, does it really matter? Do you want to get away from all that and be a little bit more free and then let the music fill the whole space? So that's some of the consideration for mixing. You need to think about that, and you need to think a little bit where you're going to place the thing. If you're doing a Dolby Atmos mixing, so somebody are recording the music, then try to get the stem. Try to get the stem without any of the effects. Get them with the effects, but try to get them without the effects. Try to get them without the panning, without the stereo panning, because when you're coming in Dolby Atmos, then the panning is trying to locate the sound in the left and right. And when you're in Dolby Atmos, you don't want that, especially if it's one instrument. So you want to place the instrument as one object in a special location. You don't want it to have it, left, right, and then the panning will make it as another fake one. So you may want some time to take the stem and then try to figure it out which one are really mono, and then bounce it into a mono track so that you have got a better control of where you're going to place this instrument into your space. So that's a couple of tips for mixing the system. Now I'm going to move into mastering, so let's load a little bit our DAW, Logic Pro, let's load the renderer, and then I'll explain you how you can achieve mastering levels. So we are still on the same project. This is a Dystopia. Let me play it a little bit. All right. So I explained how to synchronize the two between your Logic and the renderer. I haven't created a master file at the moment at all. And I've shown you the Gospel Answer board, which is on output 19 and 20, which is also this plugin here. And I've created a sequence. So you can see it on the edition here. You see that the object will move here, and in the second phase here. So you need to control your object location. You can enable the sequencer that allow you to do movement, and here you have got the step duration. So it's a little bit complicated to get it in the right step and in the right. The automation is a little bit funky, but that allows you to make a movement on some of the objects. So I click done. I don't want to touch it. For instance, here that will create this movement here. You see 19 and 20 is moving around based on the sequencer. So I had to duplicate it here from the original track because I've got two different movements because they are not fitting exactly on the same division of 8 bars. So I had to create two different movements for it. So that happens. Alright, now for the mastering. We talk about the mixing, that everything needs to make a sense. So you can see some of the objects are in the front, like I put the Tecodrum 1 in the front, Tecodrum 2 in the back, so that give a little bit of back and forth. The ambient intrigue is on the side. The Powervox is moving from the front to the back also. The Ghost Pattern Ensemble is a movement while it's coming up, and the sonic boom is above, slightly above and on the side. So I've chosen this stuff. All right, so that's my mixing, and I need to check that on my renderer. So here I've got my monitoring in 5.1, but at the same time I've got binaural output. As I explained to you, I use two different channels for my headphones, so it renders in 5.1 and in binaural on my headsets. So like this I can swap between the two very quickly. Alright, what do I need to do is with the Dolby Atmos format you need to reach a maximum of minus 18 lufs integrated. So this number here is important, you need to be at minus 18. And the second number is a true peak, you need to be at maximum minus 1 true peak. So that's for your Dolby Atmos, that's for your master. The difficulty with mixing and mastering in Dolby Atmos is that there's not a master at the end of Logic where you could apply a compressor and a limiter. So it all happens on each one of your tracks. This is where you need to control each one of your tracks so you reach the minus 18. So that's why it's a difficulty. You need to change the volumes. So I selected the volume based on my mixing, but then after I'm coming back to them to be able for me to reach the minus 18 here. So that's the important part. At the same time, you can see the binaural loudness, and there's not too much that you can do with it, but that's why I'm creating a different master for the binaural. The only thing that you need to make sure is that once you've got your Dolby Atmos master locked in to the right loudness and the right true peak, listen to the binaural to make sure that it sounds okay. In my case, I had quite some difficulties with the subsonic that was because it's a very low frequency. So the subsonic was interfacing with the ambient intrigue, and I had to control the two together so that in the binaural the sound was okay. But in 5.1 in the Dolby Atmos fully, that was okay. It's a binaural that was needed a little bit of control. So make sure that you hit the right loudness, minus 18 maximum. Some documentation say you can do plus or minus, but when you read the Dolby Atmos documentation, they say it's better to be below minus 18. At plus or minus, so between minus 16 and minus 18 and minus 20, that's where you need to be. So you need to reach that value, and the maximum needs to be minus 1 dB true peak. That's the maximum value of your sound. So that's where you need to hit. So that's why is the difficulty of the mastering. When you've got all that, you're ready to create your master. So alright, so we are ready to create our master. So I'm going in the Dolby Atmos renderer and I create a file, new master file. It asks me to have a directory. So a master is a folder that will contain several files. So for instance, here I'll put Dolby tutorial. Alright, and that creates my master. At this moment, when you create the master, you need to make sure that all the input, description, and everything is locked in. So you know that you've got a good loudness, and you've set up all your parameters, and you're ready. So you just create your master. So it shows all the elements that change a little bit of the colors, and you see now you've got a source on input, and you've got your master. Master hasn't been recorded. So we are ready to record. So I can come here and I press this button, and that's it for recorded. And because we are all synchronized, then I just need to come into my DAW and press play, and it will record it. So I just need to wait that the whole file is being played, and it will stop the recording as soon as there is no more LTC which is being sent. And you see the right object that are getting eliminated, so that's when it's receiving some information. And only this object that are receiving information will be saved. Alright, I'm going to stop it because I've got my master recorded already. So let me load my previous master. So I'm going into, in the renderer. So I had that already. So I'm opening Restaurant, which is my Dystopia. I need to find it back. I'll open master file. Alright, I'm in Dystopia, so this is my master. So I'm going to open it. Atmos. So I've done it already. So now you see it's changing between input and master. So what's happening is that I can listen to my file here, I can play it, and this is what's coming out from my DAW, and this is coming out from my master. So I can do some A/B testing between the input and the master. Alright, let me stop that. Once you've done that, the nice part which is done with your master, so it's recorded, now you can export in different format. But the first things to do is that you can check your it's in the window, you can check your loudness analysis. So here is a window with the loudness analysis. You can enter master and you can analyze the loudness. So it goes over the file and we'll do it in one go, which is way faster than to listen to the whole file. So you may want to use that for analyzing your loudness very quickly once you make some tweak. So here we go. So my track, you see the loudness is at minus 18.9. And you need to reach to be between minus 20 and minus 18.9, so that's fine. And my dB true peak is minus 1.6. Maximum was supposed to be minus 1, so that's perfect. I've got also my binaural, but you see my binaural here is the LKFS is minus 15.1. In fact, it's not too bad because in Spotify and other systems you need to be around minus 14. So a minus 15.1 is not too bad. My trouble here is my true peak is at 0 and I need to be at minus 1. So I'm not too far off, but I still have a problem because my true peak in the binaural is too loud. So I will have to suppress some of the peak. Alright, once you're done that you're happy with your mastering, then you can print it. So you go File and you export your audio in the ADM BWF, and the ADM BWF is a file that you are going to submit to your distributor. So that's one. You can also export your audio in an MP4 format. So the advantage of the MP4 format, let's do it. The MP4 format will create a movie which doesn't have any movie per se, but it's a black screen, but it will have all the audio track. So you set it up for music, you set up the entire master, and you can export it. This MP4 file, you can move it in, usually I move it into the iCloud, and then from the iCloud I go on my phone and I can play it. And my phone will understand the Dolby Atmos and then will play it. So it's a nice way to be able to listen to the binaural output on your phone. So the final render, so from your Dolby Atmos, it's similar to what Apple Music, once processing the Dolby Atmos, will send to your phone when it's in Apple Music. So that's a nice way to do a cross-check that it will be okay. Also, you can play it on different devices that are Dolby Atmos enabled. So that's a nice way to check it. The other one that is important, so when I export, is my re-renders. So my re-renders, I can re-render a special file for 7.1, for 5.1, for 2.0, but I've got my re-render in binaural. So that's the one that I want to export. So I can export the multi-channel interleave, enter master, and I can click export. So that's create a binaural file. And that's a binaural file that I'm going to use to distribute to systems that don't understand Dolby Atmos. So in summary, I'll create two files. The ADM, I never remember the name, so let's have it. I will export the ADM BWF. So that's for the platform that understands Dolby Atmos. And from our re-render, I will export a binaural file, which is 2 channels, that I will process in my DAW so that I can achieve the right true peak and the right lefts. So 2 files to export. And the MP4 here, which is for you to be able to test the final render, like it's a final MP4 in a Dolby Atmos format. That allow you to play it on different devices and to listen what it will render as. Well, this video is getting long, so it's time to stop this part. So in part 3, we'll do the mastering of the binaural file and the distribution. So thank you for following till now. Please subscribe so you are alerted when the next part will come out. And you can also listen to all the music that I make. So thank you, don't forget, subscribe and click like, and I'll see you for part 3, which is, I think, this time the final version of it.